In the third task, we're gonna run a real experiment together. I'm crowdsourcing. I'm asking for your help in coming up with new single question experiments. So we've seen a lot of examples for those. So I'll just remind you very briefly that we did heuristics and biases. So starting from list of companies, so you had like Starbucks and Reebok, and then you've got the other companies that are lesser known, and then most people tend to choose the one that they know, but then we realize that the groups are the ones that are the bigger ones. So within one question, we see two options, and then we realize most people go for A, but actually the real answer is B. So we realized in different sessions, we talked about different experiments that show with one single question how to demonstrate something that is very important about our cognition, about our psyche, things that bias us, things that cause us to deviate from what is perhaps good for us or what we value. So we did at least 3 sessions with a lot of these demonstrations, so you have that. In addition, last week we did lots of riddles, frustrating riddles, where we got stumped. We didn't know how to proceed. Sometimes it was difficult for us to overcome this. You got better and better at this as we went along with the riddles, but some of them were really annoying and difficult, but they were able to demonstrate within a single riddle something about our cognition within a social context, what we call social cognition. So we were able to show that stereotype inconsistent scenarios took longer to solve than stereotype consistent ones, and many different aspects. So one other thing that you can do for task 3 is to think about a riddle and how to construct this riddle or play with this riddle in order to investigate something about the way that we perceive the world. In order to help you even further, I asked our teaching assistants to summarize a lot of single questions that we did in HKU. So I did this with previous sessions with HKU students in judgment decision making and advanced social psychology, and they were kind enough to summarize this here. So basically, we've got a lot of these different classic studies. For example, Kahneman and Tversky, we did a replication. So what they did for you is the vignette. So for example, we did this, the boy, girl, boy, 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 boy. So we did all of these. So these are replications that we ran. And basically what's here is that you've got the vignette, you've got how most people would answer, and then what is considered to be the right or the neutral answer, and how this is a deviation. The reason why we constructed all of this, and this is very, very long, and it's based on real vignettes and scenarios, is that we want to encourage you to use as much as possible generative AI, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you feel like using. In this case, we really encourage you to use that as much as possible, because I don't expect you to be able to, out of the blue, suddenly find some new single question about something that hasn't been investigated. So if that would be done without AI, that would be very, very difficult. But because we have these AIs, what I would like you to do is build up your AI skills in order to do some prompts, but then use what you've learned in this class in order to make sure that first, this is really interesting. Second, that it hasn't been done before. And 3, that it is something that might be impactful, important. So in the other class that I'm teaching, advanced social psychology, we're using generative AI and the third task in order to investigate charities. So charity A versus charity B. So you have this example on your syllabus, so you can see what we've done over there. And basically with one scenario comparing 2 charities, we can learn something about the way that people evaluate charities. You don't have to do something about charities. You can do this in any way that you like. So in order to show you a little bit of what's possible, I already played a little bit with generative AI, and I created the second one for you. And this is this thing that you can scan if you want, or you can follow the link. Some people claim, so I had this discussion with Christy about it's blocked in Hong Kong. So there's like lots of problems. HKU tried to do ChatGPT for us, and that's very limited and annoying and doesn't give you all the capabilities. So it turns out there's lots of very easy solutions to this. One, you can use a VPN, but I don't expect you to have a VPN. The second, you can use PoE. So I tried it. It's unbelievable. It's very fast. You can use one prompt and just run this on all the AIs together. So if you're not familiar with PoE, you can just sign up for this with your Gmail or whatever. and then you can immediately activate this, and there's no VPN. Everything just works very, very nicely. So I encourage you to do this, and I encourage you to use your prompt with as many AIs as possible. So I'll just give you an example of very simple things that I did. I didn't want to constrain you or lead you, or I just wanted to give you a demonstration of what's possible. So even with a very simple Gemini, Google's Gemini, I gave a prompt like this. So for example, just do this a little bit bigger. I wrote something as simple as write a vignette that uses a single question to study sunk cost fallacy. So this is one of the things that we've discussed, why people put more money into bad directions, given that there are sunk costs. Indicate how people are likely to answer it, and then indicate why it's considered a bias. So it's quite remarkable how good these things are. So they give a vignette, they give a single question, should I go to the concert or not? So we've discussed this example many, many times. Then it says what people are likely to answer, and then it explains why it's a bias. So already amazing. But this is an existing bias, and we want something new because we want to investigate new ideas. So I gave it another prompt. Write a vignette that uses a single question to study new human cognitive bias that has not been studied before, indicate how you would like to, how people are likely to answer, and then indicate why it's considered a bias. And then it gives me something that seems a little bit familiar. It calls it the budget creep bias, which I've never heard this title before, so I don't know how it named it. But imagine you're in a bookstore, you see a book that you've wanted to read, it's a bit more expensive than you'd like, but you decide to buy it. As you're leaving the store, you realize you've forgotten to buy a gift for a friend. You see a perfect gift, but it's also more expensive than you planned. You hesitate. Should I buy the gift or not? And what is this new bias that it came up with? This bias suggests that people may be more likely to deviate from their budget after making an initial unplanned purchase. So it's whether there was an unplanned purchase before the real purchase or not. Does it help deviate from your plan to purchase something or not? Are you more likely, less likely to buy something cheaper, more expensive? I have to say, this is already quite clever, but it seems a little bit familiar. So sometimes I do things like just redo the last answer, give me a different example. And then if I see something that catches my attention, then I try to help the chat GPT or the Gemini to fine tune it. So I do this a few times. So now it has this vacation escalation bias, but it seems a little bit too close to escalation of commitment. So sometimes I also add a prompt like, yeah, this still feels like a cognitive bias that is too familiar, or existing bias, discover a completely new and innovative bias, and then write a vignette, blah, blah, blah. And then it gives me something that I actually thought was really clever, and I don't know something quite like it. It's about precision. So whether when you buy a mobile phone, one says that it's up to 20 hours, and model B says it's exactly 19 hours and 32 minutes. So this thing about precision, we have a few studies about that, but I think the way that it constructed the vignette was quite clever. So it called it the precision priority bias, that people tend to want something that's more precise, and it gives them higher sense of quality. So if you have something like up to, it's a big range. You're like, okay, this is not precise enough. It doesn't sound like they're serious. But if somebody writes to you 19 hours and 32 minutes, they think, oh, okay, so they've measured this, they've done some tests. So it's interesting, this the way that they play with precision. There is a bias that's related to this, but not quite like this. So it just goes to show that with very little effort, you can come up with some very cool ideas, and then you can build up on that. You can do whatever. Anyway, so I hope you'll have some fun with this task. I'll just remind you, there's a policy at HKU regarding the use of Gen AI. So it's not that you cannot use AI. You can. It's written in the syllabus how you should do it. You just need to disclose it, and you need to add all the prompts and all the answers so that me and the teaching assistants can see all the path of how you came from nothing to your final report with a generative AI in the middle. So I do want you to go beyond what the generative AI, and I want you to use your your analytic skills in the scientist hat in order to really think about which one is the best, and come up with 10 to 20. And then we'll have a little bit of a kind of like a bonus competition. So the ones that will be like the most impressive and the ones that we run as an experiment and will have the largest effect, we'll get a bonus. But hopefully together as a whole classroom, we'll be able to come up with some cool things. Any question about this? I'll share the links and all that in the announcement of the task. But anything about what I've just shown about the task? What is the task? What to do with Gen AI? All good? Okay. Shocked faces. Terrific. Yeah. So in order to take you out of your shock, I thought we'll play a little bit of a game. I think you might be familiar with this game, but for this game, I will need some volunteers. And in order for you to incentivize you to participate, we're going to play for some real awards. This time it's not money. This time we're going to play for chocolates and candies. So I did bring with me some stuff. You can even choose which one you want. So we've got like I don't know, Hershey's, Kisses. What else? Got Toblerone. Got M&M. Yeah. So help me get rid of all this candy. I don't want to take any with me afterwards. But this is the way that it works. So your objective is to acquire as many candies as possible. Please take as many as you can. You can take any amount of candy anytime you want. So I will bring some students here that will stand here. And in front of them, there will be a bunch of candies, just like standing here. And there will be some rounds. We'll play some rounds, but you don't know how many rounds there are going to be. So you can't really plan this very well. There's some level of uncertainty to it. The number of candies left on the table at the end of every 10 seconds, so every round is 10 seconds. And whatever is left, whatever nobody took, I will double, okay? So every round, 10 seconds, whatever is left, I will double. But at any point in time during the 10 seconds, anybody can just walk and take the candy and bring. If there's nothing left, then everything ends. But as long as the rounds keep going, then I will double this every round. Do you understand the rules of the game? Everything is clear? Okay. So just to reiterate, the game ends if no more candies in the bowl or all rounds are played, whatever that may be. So I have a number in mind for the number of rounds. Could be 1, could be 10. No, who knows? Okay. So I need 4 volunteers to help me play this game. Yes, please come. Anybody else? Yeah, chocolate, great. Anybody else? 3 more? Come. Yeah, come. Yeah, come. Okay, great. One more? One more? Yeah, come. Yeah, good. You too. Come. Yeah, good. Do you have any preference for which one? You can choose which one you want. Kisses? Hershey's? No?
Think Hershey's.
Hershey's, we'll start with this. Okay. All right. Now, sorry? No, at any point in time, you can take as many as you want. It's up to you what you want to do. Now, as I'm preparing this and as they're thinking of their strategy, so you have built a strategy in mind, how much you want to do, take each round and all this, please make predictions. So the entire point of our doing this whole thing is for you to be experimenter, put the scientist hat, observe what your classmates are doing, and come up with some predictions so that you can afterwards see if your prediction was accurate or not accurate. Okay? So we're going to start with something relatively small. I'm going to start with 3, okay? We'll start with these 3. But they will double in each round, so it can go pretty high. So each of you form a strategy, okay? You've got something in mind, okay? Each of you form a prediction regarding what's going to happen. Everybody is clear on everything that's happening here, okay? I will just like count down from 10 to 0. If anything is left, then I will double it, okay? All good? All good? Okay. So we'll start round 1, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Finished. Thank you for playing. End of the game because there's nothing left over there. And before I ask our volunteers what it is that they thought about, is this what you predicted would happen? Deviated? How many of you predicted this in advance, that this is what's going to happen? Raise your hand. 1, okay, 2, 3. How many saw this as something surprising? Raise your hand. A little bit surprising, a bit surprising, more surprising than predicted. So it's interesting. Obviously, we'll start with you because you kind of, we thought we were going to have 10 rounds, but now it's just like 1. Maybe I'll give you a mic if you don't mind. Maybe you can share a little bit of your thoughts about what just happened.
I saw that no one was gonna do anything as you were counting down, so I felt pressure to do something.
My counting down?
Yeah, I don't know why. It just did, and I recall it said I can take as many as I wanted, so I took 3.
Yeah. But by you taking this, there's less left of there, so there's less of doubling, right?
Yeah. I don't really care about these guys. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm joking.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I'm curious about your thoughts. What are your thoughts about what just happened? Oh, you're giving away the way. There's some interesting development here. Yeah, so you give them away. Oh, but he's not in your group. So he's not getting any candy.
I feel sad now.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you.
are you not feeling pressure because of me? Like, actually, I put 3 because I was kind of thinking about this happening. Yeah, our next volunteer has just no next if you want later. Um, but yeah, it's interesting that you chose to give those away. Were you planning this in advance? To feel bad? Do what? Oh, the game was okay. I see. So now it seems like you have a candy in your hand. Do you have any thoughts? I think you had thoughts before, but now you have different thoughts.
Actually, I don't mind like not be the one like taking all the candies.
Okay.
And like if the I thought of like if the number of candies like more than the number of people here, I might actually take like 4, like so that we can each. I would give them 1 each, and then like kind of tell them like let's cooperate to like wait till the end.
Sure. What is the end?
The end is like no, I don't know. But like more candies.
So you indicated a lot of things. Indicated about thinking about the others and whether there's more on the chair in order to give them, and then thinking about cooperating, right? So all these are very interesting. Thanks for sharing this. I'll just very briefly get yours. What are your thoughts?
No, I was thinking similarly to him, like because like we can have a very bare look at a bag and it's about like 30 to 40.
Oh, so I have more in my bag.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry,
I was also thinking like when a number is greater than the multiplication of the number of 4,
okay,
then we can take the number and then divide to all of us to avoid cases like James is doing, like taking all of them.
Yeah. Okay, great. How about you? Some thoughts?
Yeah, I was also hoping that it would at least double once so we can like on average get more per person. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think prevented the wait? Why did they not wait in order to see it double? What was the urgency about getting this in the first one, especially since they're your classmates, right? Your teammates. So let's try and optimize this. I'll make this easy for you to think about as a strategy. And I'm also asking you, your aim first, of course, is to acquire as many candidates as possible, but also to like beat the professor because you want to walk away with all this, right? And you especially, the 3 of you, you're from the same team. So let's say, for example, we run another experiment. What do you think that these classmates can do in order to improve the decision making for the following game? Would you like to do another game? Do you want to do another one? Okay. You rushed into it? You want another chance? Okay, so we'll do another one. So now they have a chance to improve on this. Do you have any recommendations for our classmates on how to do this better in the upcoming game? What can they do better? You have a chance to do a psychology of a single round. What do you think they should do? How to optimize this? Any thoughts? Yes, Lee? Sorry? That's a good question to ask. Are you allowed to communicate? Yeah, what do you think?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good question. They answered. So let's say that you're allowed to communicate. So I already like this because you're asking about what the restrictions are. So what is the reason why you asked this? Let's say they're allowed to communicate. What's your suggestion? Okay, form a strategy together. Anything else? Good ideas. You're helping them. I think they're now thinking about all the possibilities. You've given them another tool because they didn't say much. Any other suggestions, things that they can do?
What much they want for themselves.
Okay, yeah. Think about that. How much do you want for yourself? Perfect. Thank you for that. Anything else comes to mind? So already we discovered something new that they can do. Like I did not restrict you before. You could have asked me, but you just assumed that there is no communication. But especially the 3 of you, maybe you don't even need anything verbal because you know each other so well, right? So already you can communicate, coordinate. Anything else? Do you have any questions about the rules of the game, what you can or cannot do? No? Do you want to take a second to communicate?
Any rule, you can think of a number like, for example, only 3 rounds will be played, and then if we don't take any of them.
Yeah, I have a number in mind. I know when I'm going to terminate this, but I'm not telling you. Yeah, so you need to plan not knowing which is the final round. Yeah, good. Any other things? Should we run this again? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, she just gave you the opportunity to come. You answered the question that she had. So yeah. So now you have a new prediction to make. Now, thanks to you, they know that they can communicate. How is this going to affect things differently? So now they can do a bunch of things. We now know that three of them are teammates. He is not a teammate. He just gave away all his chocolates. What will happen in this new game? So one factor changed. Now we can make another prediction and see what happens, right? So it's great, but we don't have the whole day, so you need to wrap it up. Okay, great. So we have to start, okay? So take your, so we have three, and we're going to start. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, terrific. So we've got two. So it's already more interesting than last time. You didn't take anything. What happened?
Now have a strategy.
Now have a strategy. Okay, so we have round two. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you took 2 out of the 4. Okay, and we keep doubling this. All right? Right? So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, finished. That was the final round. So that's the end of our game. What did we see? What did we notice? Before we ask them what the strategy is, what did you see? What happened differently? There was some coordination. How would you rate their cooperation? Was this clever or not clever? What are your thoughts? Okay. Did you follow your plan? Was that the plan? They followed the plan. Do you think the plan was a good cooperation? Could they have done better? If they're all happy, happiness-wise, perhaps. In terms of the goal and the objective, to take as many candies, as many chocolates from the professor.
I guess they're kind of surprised by the amount of rounds they expect.
Yeah. So given the uncertainty of the number of rounds, were you surprised by the number of rounds? How many were you planning for? A lot more than that, even though it was uncertain. Yeah. Okay. Terrific. So I'll just ask. The strategy was you took just one instead of two. You took two. You took one, two, and then one. So what is the strategy?
So when I took one, you're gonna double the price.
Yeah.
Like those 4, 11, 8. So we take 4.
Oh.
4.
Okay. Okay. I see. Huh. Okay. I understand. Great. Thank you for playing and sharing that. So now that we understand the game and we saw what just happened, my question to you, if you want, is what kind of games would you like to see? So you have the ability to come up without ChatGPT, to come up with a new way of testing this. So I think for now, I'll say thank you to you guys. Thank you. You can take a seat. So if you could come up with your own experiment. So let's say that you know this is a single question. We can learn a lot of things from this. This is a classic behavioral game using game theory that tries to demonstrate a certain thing. But before we talk about what it demonstrates and what it does, I want to ask you whether there's something that's interesting for you and you would like to play with. You know all the parameters. You know what happened. What version of the game would you like to run? What is it that we can do together in order to test this on new volunteers? What is it that you would like to vary? Anything else in mind? Something interesting for you? Yes, Steve?
Like if you break out the rounds, like if you said that it would be a total of 79, then that would be
Great. Yeah. So let's think together. What would it change? What do you think would happen if they would know the number of rounds or the range?
like say for instance, that would end at 7. So they might take everything at 7 and try to like do fast ones. Then about training the level is more about 7.
Which one of them will take? So they will cooperate in some way, or what's the prediction?
And they probably just all start taking 10 instead of last year.
In the last round? Okay. And everybody would leave everything until the last round.
There's very likely that one person will just take all at least one, because then the others will have to wait for it to levels or else they don't get it.
I see. Yeah, so that's very interesting. So we already had varying whether they can collaborate or not collaborate, cooperate with each other or not, so whether they can communicate in order to reach some kind of an agreement. And now we're talking about whether we define the number of rounds, how many rounds, and then see whether there's something that's happening before that. So the main point of this game traditionally is a public goods game where if everybody just puts things in the pool and doesn't touch it, right? Then it doubles and everybody can benefit from that. And then at the right time, everybody can reap the benefits of however many candies. But there is some uncertainty regarding when the game is going to end. And then people start to act a little bit selfishly, right? So we can think about all kinds of demonstrations for this around the world when it comes to climate change, or about whether we're going to how we're going to split natural resource, whether everybody is going to take it, or whether we allow everybody else to enjoy it as well. So, for example, when it comes to fishing, if we have just like everybody just tries to fish as much as possible, then at some point the fish completely disappears. But then in order for people to be able to live off fishing and have enough fish in the sea, you need to leave some fish in the sea so that they will be able to double, to be able to grow. So if you just go one time and you fish everything that's out there, then nothing is going to be left. So there needs to be some cooperation in order to do this. But increasingly, there are more and more players coming in and they don't collaborate with us. They don't cooperate with us. So for example, in some places in Africa that used to traditionally fish and the fishermen collaborated with each other, suddenly you've got these big boats coming from other places in the world and fishing all their stuff. And then they're left with nothing. So they assume that the game is going to go on forever with the fish doubling all the time and everybody enjoying and reaping the benefits of that. But at some point, the game ended and a lot of them are now facing hunger. And the thing is that it's very difficult to know, first, how much you can collaborate with others. If some new player comes in and they're not collaborating with you, they can take all the resources away. And then you don't know how long this is going to last. The fish might disappear, climate change might change things, somebody else could come from a different country, take your fish. There are lots of uncertainties. So public goods game usually tends to end badly with people becoming more and more selfish, individualistic, and thinking about their short-term benefits rather than long-term. So a public goods game with game theory is showing all the problems with this. So we'll do just like one more version. Thank you for the suggesting a range, because this is what comes to mind. So this time I'm going to offer an easier game, and I want you to collaborate as much as possible. And I'm taking this hypothesis saying that perhaps with 3 rounds, people are going to collaborate better. So yeah, so we'll do like 3. So we have 5. So that's a lot, right? And you can like coordinate, collaborate, whatever you want. Everything okay? You ready for this game? Yeah, all good? All right, so we'll do 3 rounds. We'll do this fairly fast. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Some disappeared. So we have, what is it? 3 now. I'm going to double this. Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 2 more. This is our final round. Okay. We have 5. And I added 5 more. Wait. Okay, let's start. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Finished. Wait, what's happening? Oh, he's sharing this with, okay. What? Okay, interesting. Is this what you hypothesized, more or less? Kind of. What deviated? What was the difference? Okay. Okay. Yeah, interesting. So do you want to explain did you go according to your strategy? Everything went as expected, or you had some surprises? Did he surprise you, or was this planned? Kind, yeah. So what were you planning to do, and what did he do?
I thought we have a implicit consensus that we are taking all the candidates at the last round. Right?
You were supposed to wait for the last round. You couldn't help yourself, right? It just looked so inviting. But you didn't take everything like you did in the previous one. Why didn't you take everything? So something will double. Okay. But you just violated the implicit contract you had with them. Oh, you didn't know? You didn't include him in the contract? Oh, only when the second round started you collaborated with him. Oh, okay. That was a little bit too late. He already took from the pool. He rushed out. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. I appreciate you playing the game with me. Thank you very much. Great. So it seems like there are some surprising things. So it seems like not everything went according to plan. So even when we can coordinate, even when we know the number of rounds, there's still some measure of trust that we need. So the main theme for us today is trust, and how trust can be earned and how trust can be violated. And it's interesting that sometimes it comes down to perhaps a misunderstanding. It wasn't coordinated very, very well. And only in the second round, after we've already seen one person violate the trust and take something from the pool, do we realize that maybe we should have done things a bit differently. But what's nice about these games is that in a very easy, simple model, you can simulate something that is very complex in the world to gain some interesting insights. So there are lots of different examples, and I really like this example. I was trying to get an approval to run this at HKU. I couldn't, but then I heard that some people at HKU actually ran this. I'm like, oh wow, I missed my opportunity. Here's a professor who decided to run something like this, a public goods game in class, and it writes like this. You can earn some extra credit on your term paper. You can choose whether you want 2 points added to your grade or 6 points. But there's a catch. If more than 10% of class selects 6 points, then no one gets any points. All selections are anonymous and the course grades are not curved. So I saw this on Twitter. This was 2015. And people were very, very upset by this. You can see some of the reactions, like, what kind of a professor does this? But in order to demonstrate something for students, it's very important to involve students, to get them to think about this. And then he replied, this evil genius replied that he is the professor and he ran this, so Dylan did this. And it's like all the pros and cons of what should be done and how to deal with this. Many videos, there's just like one here. We don't have time to look into this, but people spend an entire hour analyzing whether this is going to work or not work. So if we were to run this, what do you think would happen? Would it work, not work? In every single instance where this was suggested, the students failed to coordinate and failed to get all the bonuses, because there were always students that wanted more than 2 points. They wanted the 6 points. And this is a demonstration of the public goods game. So I'm going to show you a very interesting demonstration of this live for somebody who ran this with clickers. And there's lots of interesting things to think about. And like I'm offering you some opportunities to change the game and think about different solutions, he gave the students every possibility to come up with some kind of solution in order to make sure that everybody benefits, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so this is an economics class, and they have the chance to either collude or defect. If everybody chooses collude, all students get 10 bonus points in the final exam. If everyone chooses to collude but one person defects, that person gets 50 bonus points. I don't even know why somebody would need 50 bonus points in the final exam, and no other student gets any points. So it's like one person benefits from this, right? If more than one person chooses to defect, no students receives bonus points. So it needs to be exactly one student that does this, right? And these are real bonus points, not pretend, okay? Now it's a big class with 550 students. I don't think you need something this large. You can do this with a much smaller class. And what's nice about this is that he does this automatically with immediate voting with clickers. We used to have this at HKU, where people got, in order to do attendance or to vote on stuff. Now we have Mentimeter and other kinds of things, but they get clickers and then they need to choose whether they collude or not. And immediately stuff shows up on the board so they can see. So what they want to see in the first bar, collude to be 100%. If it's 100%, then all of them get the bonus. This is what happens.
It'd be nice to have 10 points in the exam. It'd be nice to have 10 points, huh?
Sorry, trying to increase the volume, but it's not working.
Probably that 50 is much better than 10.
So as you can see, there were like 35 students that chose not to collude. They chose to try to get the bonus, which is to be expected because this is a public good game and some people defect.
You guys want to do it again?
And then he offers them the chance to do this again. What happens if you give them?
Do you want to talk among yourself or something?
Now they can coordinate. They can try to make sure that everybody else is on track.
Before you do it, or you just want to go for it?
Now they start yelling at each other. Everybody must collude. Everybody must collude. Second vote. There's still some people who...
Better, you convinced 4 people to collude, right? That was an improvement. 8 more times. You want to do it again? Yeah.
Now, the question is how to solve this kind of dilemma. What kind of things can the students do in order to come up with a solution that would solve this? So you can think what kind of solutions you would suggest. But then somebody came up with this brilliant idea of the problem is people might be selfish, so they're clicking for themselves. If everybody just gives the clicker to somebody else, so nobody holds their own clicker, they just hold somebody else's clickers, then that would solve the situation, right? So that's pretty clever. And then the professor is willing to do that one as well.
One thing before we do it, anything? Yes? Yeah? Well, yeah, okay. You want, some people here want people to go for A. Pass your clicker. Here's suggesting that we pass the clicker to the next person and see if that works. Ooh. You want to try that? Let's try. So you don't have to try, but make sure you keep track of who you're giving it to, right? So if you want, why don't you trade clickers with the person next to you? Trade clicker with the person next to you. And pass the clickers. Now, if you pass the clicker, there's no reason why you should defect now. So the chances, I think, should have been a little better, right?
So there were 11 people who decided not to collude with the other. So we're going to do one more game. So if you're feeling a little bit bad about all these chocolates here, and I'm definitely want to get rid of them. So we are going to do at least a couple of Prisoner's Dilemma. Anybody want to play this? You don't even have to come up to class. You just need to raise your hand. I'll even come to you. Anybody want some chocolate? So I need 2 prisoners in order to choose. So this is how it works. You know, the split or steal, cooperate or defect, player 1, player 2. You cannot lose. It's the minimum is 0, so you're not losing anything. But if both of you split or cooperate, then each get 3. But then if one decides to steal, then the person who decides to steal gets 5, and the other gets 0. So it's a pretty simple game. You've seen this like a million times. You know this. But then we're going to have an opportunity to tweak this in all sorts of meaningful ways. So you can put your scientist hat to make some predictions, to check whether predictions are correct, and then to make some adjustments to this. Move the clicker to the other student or something like that. Anybody want to play this? Yeah, split or steal. You got this one here, and you got split or steal. So yeah, terrific. So just without showing anybody, you just give me one of them. You want to communicate with them? Let's do one without communication first, okay? Let's see how it goes. Okay. Have you made a decision? Okay. Thank you very much. So no communication. You can make a prediction. So what do you think your prediction is? What's going to happen at the end? What's the likely result of this? Do you guys know each other, by the way? No, you've never met, never talked about anything. Okay, so complete strangers, both prisoners sitting in jail, needed to collaborate in order to avoid the sentence. So what do you think is going to happen? Somebody back, I think, over there once raised the Nash equilibrium. So this is a very famous case study where Nash equilibrium comes into play. We're going to talk about what that is. But just looking at this situation, what is the likely outcome? Trust or mistrust? How many of you think trust? Optimal solution to this? Okay, good. Voting with your hands. That's possible. Great. Okay. How many of you think both of them will defect? Yeah, one. Oh, okay, almost half of optimistic. How many of you think one of them would defect? One. Okay. Yeah. So either. Okay. Uh-oh. Did you see what he just did? Okay, so it's interesting. What we got at the end is split and steal. So one defected, but I don't know who. Did you defect? You split. So you defected. Okay. Interesting. First, you get 5 sweets. Do you have a preference on which one to get? Toblerone, is that okay? Okay, here you go. Thanks for playing. I really appreciate that. Great. Yeah, any thoughts? It seems like you predicted this in advance. It's almost like to be fair. Okay. I did not notice you raising your hand over there, and you were very clever. You looked back to see what he was saying. Based on this, made a prediction. That's actually very, very clever. Any reactions to what just happened? How do you feel about? So it seems like you and you in the back, right? You also predicted one would steal, one would split, yeah? So just a second, I will just ask him, what led you to this prediction? You were an outlier in this class. Sorry? You felt like somebody's going to defect, but not both of them. Okay, so it's like a guess, or did you have some?
That's because both of them have played the game before.
Mm-hmm.
It has some identity, but so I feel like two new factors like two, but because I've got Andy's that have played, so one of them's probably not for.
I see. Okay, interesting. Now, thank you for that. So now we're back to you. So how do you feel about this whole thing?
Like before I was signing up for this game, I think like split sounds like a win-win choice for me because now I already have some.
Yeah, you already got some before, right?
If the person choose split, I will still got more.
Okay.
And if the other person choose still, I will earn a high moral merit.
Interesting. That definitely changes the Nash equilibrium. First, you had a background where you played, you had some chocolates, okay? And then you had something that usually economists don't think about. You wanted to have the moral high ground. It's like, I want to be moral. That's more important to me than how many chocolates I'm going to get. But now you're also suggesting that maybe the other person doesn't have moral standing. Not suggesting anything like this. I am. How do you feel about this suggestion? He's a good person. How do you think you are? Your utility, yeah. Economist versus social psychologist, something like that. Yeah, interesting. Going back to your question about whether you can coordinate, do you feel you would have acted differently if you could have coordinated with him? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. Like what?
Just about how components that are still
Oh, okay. Which one was that? Because we're gonna watch that. You've watched that? Okay. There's a TV show. We're gonna talk about how that might be possible. So it's good that maybe I didn't let you coordinate this. But there were some attempts for people to overcome this kind of situation. But you can vary a lot of factors in this game, and we're going to see just how far it goes. One thing that you can do, for example, is here nobody can lose. You felt very confident, like, okay, no loss. I don't need to give anything away. Therefore, everything is great. But of course, there are versions where people might lose stuff. So you can change things where both people defect, both of them have to give something back. So if they already have chocolates, then they will give. They will experience loss. So you can play with the loss and gain framing, whether there's something to lose or not lose. So the consequences, whether there is a loss or not a loss. So you can vary many factors in this game, right? So we'll talk about what factors you can vary, and we'll see a little bit of the attempt to overcome the prisoner's dilemma with a TV show that's called the Golden Balls. Perhaps you've heard of it. But before we do this, I'll give you a short break. Yeah, 5 minutes, and please help me get rid of the chocolate. So take as many as you want on your way out, okay? So yeah, I was asked whether, like, what does it mean in the task 3 for us to do better than ChatGPT or the generative AI? And my response was that you don't need to come up with something more clever. You use the generative AI as best you can, but Gen AI doesn't know how to explain what it is that they do. It's based on correlations, and when you ask it, okay, so based on what articles did you write this thing from, it doesn't know how to do that, and it gives you a lot of nonsense, and sometimes it makes up articles, which is absolutely amazing. Very innovative articles, but they're not real. So what you need to do is to be able to see whether something like this has been done before, what is it based on, what makes this new, what is the quality. So it just requires some legwork. So once you've got something from the AI, which you think is great, is solid, just be able to look things up on Google Scholar and see that this has some kind of merit, okay? So yeah, if something is unclear and you're not sure, then please make use of me. I'm also a tool that you can use. So you can write to me, we ran these things, this came out, does this sound reasonable? What can we do? We looked up, we didn't find anything, does this, so I'm very happy to give you this kind of feedback, okay? Good. So when it comes to trust, which is our theme today, and the demonstrations that we saw here with the classmates and the chocolates and all of that, I really love this TV show. And there's a reason why I'm showing you this TV show. We do a lot of studies on these TV shows. I'll even show you an article that was written on Golden Balls. So Golden Balls was a very popular show. There's lots of episodes that are available online for you to watch. But of those, I selected 2 classic scenes which demonstrate something very meaningful about trust. So I'll show you 2 scenarios fairly quickly. The first one it will be a little bit longer because they'll explain the setup, so you'll understand this a little bit better. I couldn't find a video without the brutal on top of it, so you already understand something brutal is going to happen. But I'll play this for you, and then I'll stop this for a second to ask you to put your scientist hat on. So as this is evolving, as you see this developing into something, try and make another prediction. So the most important thing is to try and apply some kind of a scientific perspective, make a prediction so that you can test it afterwards.
Okay, this is serious, life-changing money. Your jackpot today is £100,150.
This is almost the biggest that they're ever. This is as high as this can go.
We're now going to play split or steal. I know you're the last two people in the country I have to explain this to, but you have two final golden balls. You each have a golden ball with the word split written inside. You each have a golden ball with the word steal written inside. You will make a conscious choice of choosing the split or the steal ball. If you both choose the split ball, you split today's jackpot of £100,150 and you go home with £50,075. If one of you splits and one of you steals, whoever chooses the steal ball will go home with £100,150. And the person who chooses the split ball goes home with nothing. If you both choose the steal ball, you go home with nothing. Okay.
So I don't know if you can tell from their facial expressions, so I'll just tell you what happened before that. The woman is very sad and upset because up until that moment, she already played with that guy, and that guy has cheated her before. She is very, very suspicious of him, and she's very cautious, and she doesn't like the setup because she feels like she might walk up with nothing. So now they have a chance to coordinate. Is this the chapter that you saw? Is this the TV show? Yeah, same TV show, different thing. Okay, it's coming up. But here they have a chance to coordinate between themselves. So he needs to convince her that he is going to make the right choice here so that both of them can win.
Before I ask you to choose, I want you to look at your two golden balls and make sure you know which is the split ball and which is the steal ball. This is very important. Make sure you don't show each other. Before I ask you to choose, I think you have some talking to do to each other.
Stephen, I just hope they weren't puppy dog tears and they were real tears and you were genuinely going to split that money.
I am going to split this. That's 50,000. I'm just, it's unbelievable. I'm very, very happy to go on with 50,000.
You were genuinely going to split the money.
If I stole off you, every single person there would run over here and lynch me.
There was no way I could, everyone who knew me would just be disgusted if I stole them.
When people watch this, they're not going to believe it.
Please.
I can look you in the, Sarah, I can look you straight in the eye and tell you I am going to split. I swear down.
So it's interesting to see the kind of influence techniques that this guy is using, right? So he's like, look straight in there, he's holding her hand, he's like, trust me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So now you've seen the discussion, you've seen the collaborate. She looks really anxious about this. She's really scared this is going to happen. But he does put a good show on, right? Seems very convincing, right? Now you can make a prediction of what's going to happen, okay? And this is what makes this, it's a very simple game, but it makes this TV show so popular because it has so much of the emotion and the trust in there.
You, I am going to split.
Okay, this is serious money. It is. Sarah, Steve, choose either the split or the steal ball now. Hold it up.
Okay, you have a prediction? Yeah, make a prediction.
I promise you that.
Split or steal? You never know what's coming in this game. Congrats.
So if you missed it, she chose to steal and he chose to split. So he was actually very genuine in the way that he did this, and she wanted a way to retaliate on this. Even when she did this, she had a little bit of a smile there, but even then she couldn't look him straight in the face, so look at what she's doing now.
Congratulations, Sarah, you have just won £100,150.
So an interesting thing about trust, there's also the joy of revenge, taking revenge. So this is interesting, but the episode that we were talking about, and I think the episode he was referring to, is this one. This became a classic because one thing that you can think about with the prisoner's dilemma is if you have any chance to coordinate, is there a way that you must, that you are forcing the other person that he must do something in order to cause the result that you want. It's a way of forcing things. And I think up to this episode, nobody thought that there's a way of forcing it, but this guy came up with this brilliant scheme. So you think about this, look at what it is that he's doing, and then make a prediction of what's going to happen.
Half a minute talking to each other about what you both should do. Nick, Ibrahim.
Ibrahim, I want you to trust me. 100% I'm going to pick the steel ball.
Sorry, the steel ball.
I'm going to choose the steel ball.
You're going to take
I want you to do split, and I promise you that I will split the money with you.
Well, after you've took the steel?
Yeah.
You're going to take steel?
Yeah.
I'm going to take split?
Yeah.
So you take the money?
And I will split it with you.
After the show?
Yeah.
So nobody has ever thought about this thing before by saying, I don't care what it is that you do, I'm going to steal. Therefore, if you know what's good for you, you're going to choose the split. And then afterwards, after the show, I will split this with you. You have to trust me. Now, this puts the other person in a very delicate, gentle position, right? He needs to decide what it is that he wants to do here. So put yourself in his shoes and try and imagine what you would do in this situation.
Ibrahim, I promise you I'll do that. If you do steal, we both walk away with nothing. I'm telling you 100% I'm going to do it.
I appreciate that. Right, I'll give you another alternative. Why don't we just both pick split?
I'm not going to pick split. I'm going to steal. Ibrahim, honestly, 100% I'm going to steal.
It's in your nature to steal.
No, I'm honest, and I'm going to tell you.
You're an honest man.
I am. That's why I'm telling you I'm going to steal. If you do split, then I will split the money.
I can't see myself doing that.
Okay, well, I'm going to steal, so we're going to leave with nothing.
Where's your brains coming from? I can't work out.
I know that I'm a decent guy, and I will split the money with you.
Well, we should just both split then.
No, I'm going to do steal.
There is no legal requirement
for
him to give you the money.
Of course. If I gave you my word, now let me tell you what my word means.
Okay.
My father once said to me, a man who doesn't keep his word is not a man. He's not worth nothing. Not worth a dollar.
I agree.
So,
Ibrahim, I'm going to steal. So you've got the choice. You either steal, and we both walk away with nothing. Because you know, I've told you my intention, and I've told you that I will split the money with you, Ibrahim.
If I gave you my word that I was going to split, I would split. And you're going to take steal. So,
the only way you can guarantee to walk away with 6,800 is to guarantee that you both put the split ball in. And I do now have to push you for a decision. It's a tough one.
We've lost it. We've lost everything.
Okay. Lost then.
We're walking away with no money because you're an idiot.
No, that's not.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. That's what you are. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. That's what you are.
This can go on all night, and these people have got to get up for breakfast. Nick, choose split or steal. Ibrahim, choose split or steal. Now, please. Choose a ball.
Not over yet. He still has like one other thing to do. But before that, before he says his last piece, what do you think is going to happen? So make a kind of prediction. Okay? Yes, please. Okay, why is that?
Also, it's split. And if the other person chooses to just never go on with zero, then he's going to use the skills of that person actually hitting the split. And then that's what happens.
Yeah, very good hypothesis. Yeah, terrific. Okay, let's see the final interaction and then what they decided at the end.
Right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go with you.
Okay.
I'm going to go with
I promise you I will split it.
He was about to steal.
You cannot change your balls now. Split or steal? Yes, congratulations, you're both split and each received £6,800.
Why did you put me through that? Why did you do it to me? You're the worst person I've ever met.
So hundreds of episodes, I've never seen anything like this. So he was the first one to come up with that, forcing the hand of the other person so that they have no other choice but to choose split and then choosing to split together with them. So absolutely brilliant. And sometimes you need a little bit of thinking outside the box. And so many people have analyzed this, economists, psychologists and all that. And this guy came up with the ultimate solution to that. I just wanted to show you that people really do papers on this stuff. So here's from management science. I actually know some of this. So Denny here is a guy who I follow a lot. He's an assistant professor, but perhaps you know one of the other names here. So Richard Thaler is a person who we discussed before. So a Nobel Prize winning guy. And you can see here that they analyzed all the episodes, that they coded everything, and they wanted to see what kind of an insight can we gain from a game like the golden ball. So if you're thinking, what can we do in order to publish some papers? Sometimes you don't need to collect data. Sometimes it's enough for you to take something like Survivor or Amazing Race or a show like this and see all the models of the things that happen over there. So what they found out, which is interesting, is cooperation is surprisingly high for amounts that would normally be considered consequential, but look tiny in their current context, what we call big peanuts phenomenon. Further, we replicated earlier findings that males are less cooperative than females, but this gender effect reverses for all their contestants. And then they analyze this in all sorts of very interesting ways. So below 40, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. So age categories, and then you can see that males become increasingly more cooperative over time. So they start out below 30, where you are. Males are much less cooperative than females, but it seems like this trend reverses over time. So it's not really clear what is happening here, but it's something that was later verified in things that have nothing to do with TV shows. And then you can see that the propensity to cooperate in terms of the stakes. So it starts off with the low stakes, what they call peanuts. People tend to cooperate. They think, okay, why not? Like, let's show our good faith. There's not much to lose anyway. But as the sums increase, the willingness to cooperate goes below 50. So a very interesting paper about something as simple as the prisoner's dilemma, as shown in a TV show like Golden Balls. You're probably familiar with Mr. Beast. Yeah, you know Mr. Beast? So he also ran some kind of versions like this. So he puts the scientist hat on and he wants to see what happens. Do you know this episode? Have you watched this one? So he puts people together for 100 days, strangers that don't know one another. And after the 100 days, he gives them the chance to either split or steal to see whether they will take a double or nothing. So it's fascinating to watch the whole thing, but we don't have too much time, so I'll just like go to the end.
Yeah. And with their final night coming to an end, it was time to present them with an opportunity to double their money.
Oh, hey, everyone.
And it seems like even after 100 days, they survived many, many challenges. So he gave them a lot of temptations. And finally, after 100 days, they said no to all these temptations. And now they're winning. They're about to take, it didn't come out to 500,000, but something like 360,000. And now they're setting everything up and they need to make a decision whether they can still stand the other person or not, whether they're going to walk away.
This is chaotic.
What is going on?
I don't know.
Big
boy. I want to help, but not really.
They're literally just taking everything.
Do you know what these are?
Those are our blindfolds from the first day.
That was quick.
I remember like it was yesterday.
If you would both please put them back on. Let's see if they want to double their money. Yay!
Oh my gosh, my heart is actually beating out of my chest.
100 days ago, they were strangers. 1 hour ago, they were best friends. Let's see if they become total enemies. Bailey and Susie, take your blindfolds off. So, you might be familiar with what we're about to offer you.
I think what is really interesting about Mr. Beast and why he's getting very close to being a billionaire, it's unbelievable how this guy, within a few years, using platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, was able to build an empire. And he's doing this by doing very large stakes things like, I don't know, buying an island and getting people to compete for an island and planes and a bunch of stuff, because he's a very, very good psychologist. He knows how to push the limits. He does this with a lot of money, so high stakes, but he puts people into very extreme situations where he wants to test something. So he's using paradigms. So obviously, split or steal is a very classic behavioral economics experiment, but he's putting this into something that feels like very entertaining. And what's really entertaining here is the problem of trust. Is there going to be trust or not? They used to be strangers, now they're allegedly, after 100 days, best friends. What's going to happen? They survived a lot of challenges. Will it last this final challenge?
You each have the choice to split the money, and nothing changes. You both hit split, you just split it, keep what you have. Or, if you hit steal, you can steal the other person's money. And if you both hit steal, you would get nothing. Susie has earplugs in and noise cancellation headphones on top of them. She can't hear us. What's going through your head?
I don't even know. Susie, if you hit steal, I can't imagine. What do you say to somebody that steals 180 whatever?
Maybe you get ahead of it and you steal it.
Fair. Did you hear that? Bailey actually might. Bailey might.
All right, throw the music back in his ears. What if while we were over there, he was like, oh, this is a no-brainer, it's too much money.
We would never speak again.
You guys have become like such close friends.
I don't know, you get to know anyone, and when you've gone through the same thing and like how hard this challenge has been, like we both deserve half for sure. But now you're making me nervous. Like I could do it too.
Whoa, what did she just say?
Maybe it'll be a case of you think you know someone. I don't know.
If both of them press the steal button, they literally spend 100 days in this room together for absolutely nothing.
There's 30 seconds left in the challenge. At the very last second, I want you both to place your vote. Do you want to walk?
You know what's going to happen? What does the Nash equilibrium say?
away with 360 grand or half of it. No one speak. Carl and Chris, you two don't talk either.
I know that Susie's gonna split, but the thought of walking away with almost $360,000, that could do so much.
Do you want to split the money or steal it?
The fact that I entered this challenge,
3,
knowing that there would be pretty dark times ahead,
2,
and I still overcame all those things,
1.
There's no price you can put on that.
No way.
If the room turns red, then someone stole. If the room turns green, then you split the money. You both chose split.
Yeah. So beyond the prisoner's dilemma and beyond this one-time iteration, I think what we can take away from this is just how exciting this thing is to everybody, because this is about trust. It is about whether trust is going to be violated or not. Somehow deep inside, I had this conflict where I was kind of hoping for one of them to steal and not split, just so I can see what would happen. But then I want the warm glow, the feeling that we all love one another and we all want to help each other and all that. But this is to say that sometimes trust does happen and there's some good outcomes to that. And it's much nicer to see this ending than what would have happened, we signed Golden Balls with one of them feeling very awkward. Mr. Beast really knows how to throw a party.
Here's your money.
And everybody's so happy. Can you just imagine what would have happened if this was not the case? Everybody would be very bummed out. 100 days for nothing. So Mr. Beast really knows how to play on these behavioral economist game. In addition, I also always had this question. Since the first time I saw the prisoner's dilemma, I always asked, why is this called a prisoner's dilemma? What would happen if we actually presented this to prisoners? So some people just decided to go and give this to prisoners to see what prisoners would actually do compared to students. And what did they find out when they actually gave the prisoner's dilemma to prisoners? That prisoners cooperated a lot more than students did, which is really ironic. But as you already know from my classes, if we just have a one-time thing, then it's not good enough for me. I want to see replications and I want to see meta-analysis and I want to see this done more. So this was the first demonstration, 2013, and then came this other paper. Not only did they have students versus what they call ordinary criminals, and it does seem like criminals cooperate to some extent. So we've got this standard dilemma, we've got with sanctions. So they made this into some moderators and they say, if we sanction and we give the people to give revenge, is this going to happen, not going to happen? But they also added another twist. They call this the Camorricity, which is basically mafia. So the mafia people are much stronger together and they collaborate even further. So you can see very high levels of cooperation between them. So it just goes to show that even something as simple as let's give a prisoner's dilemma to prisoners and compare them to students is very publishable and has a lot of real world implications where we can learn something meaningful. So we might assume, I think we saw this in the video, maybe just because they're criminals, then that means that we should not trust them. But actually criminals are very good at collaborating and cooperating. And we do papers on this. So they went to southern Italy in order to visit the mafia over there to see how the mafia collaborates. They gave them this prisoner's dilemma with high stakes and with the opportunity to revenge. And it just seems like they cooperate. So both with Mr. Beast and going all the way to the mafia in Italy to study cooperation, it seems like Nash equilibrium, assuming the worst of people where everybody is going to defect at the end because this is the best option, doesn't really work out. So I've mentioned Nash equilibrium. Perhaps you're not sure what that is and why the Nash equilibrium is so pessimistic about things. So I'm going to show you a very quick video that will demonstrate this a lot better than I can show you on the board. Just follow a very simple explanation of the two options for each person and why the Nash equilibrium always shows that defection is the likely result.
Some losers. Probably the most famous thought experiment in competitive game theory is the prisoner's dilemma. The prisoner's dilemma describes a game, a social interaction that involves two prisoners. We'll call them Wanda and Fred. They're hardened criminals. Fred has no reason to think that Wanda won't stab him in the back and vice versa. Competitive game theory arranges their choices and their potential consequences into a grid that looks like this. If both Wanda and Fred choose not to confess, they'll both serve 2 years. In theory, this is the best overall outcome. Combined, they would spend as little time in prison as possible. But that immunity sounds pretty good. If one of them chooses to confess and the other one doesn't, the snitch gets to walk. Then the math looks like this. That's the problem. Wanda and Fred have no reason to trust each other. Wanda might consider not confessing because if Fred doesn't confess either, both only serve 2 years. If they could really trust each other, that would be their best bet. But Wanda can't be sure that Fred won't snitch. He has a lot to gain by confessing. If he does decide to confess and she keeps silent, she's risking 10 years in jail while he goes free. Compared to that, the 5 years they both get for turning on each other doesn't sound so bad. And that is game theory's solution. They should both confess and rat each other out. So right now you're thinking, wow, game theory is a jerk. But it actually makes sense. That square in the grid where they both confess is the only outcome that has reached what's known as Nash equilibrium. This is a key concept in competitive game theory. A player in a game has found Nash equilibrium when they make the choice that leaves them better off no matter what their opponents decide to do. If Wanda confesses and Fred does not confess, she's better off. She gets to walk. By confessing, she went from serving 2 years in prison to serving none. If Fred does confess, she's still better off. If she'd kept her mouth shut, she'd be spending 10 years in prison. Now, she only has to serve 5. Sure, if she decides not to confess and Fred keeps his pinky promise too, they'll both get out in 2 years, but that is an unstable state, because Wanda can't trust Fred. She doesn't know what he's going to do. This is not a cooperative game. All of the players stand to gain from stabbing each other in the back. The prisoner's dilemma is just one example of a competitive...
Yeah, so it's a very nice illustration of how, looking at this grid, the result, the best result for each one of the players is to not cooperate. So there is trust. I think psychologists discovered that trust exists, and many times we don't go for the Nash equilibrium. So this is where behavioral economics overcomes the rationality of traditional economics. Which brings me to the game of trust. So sometimes we want to model trust. So now that we understand that there's actually psychology behind all these interactions and these games, people started to incorporate all kinds of strategies in order to build trust. And one of the questions that came to mind is what happens when we actually have a few iterations? So it's not a one-time off. So where you make a decision and then you don't see the other person anymore. But what happens if we do this again and again and again and again? And you can build reputation. You can build trust with one another. So I've seen many different demonstrations of this, many boring papers. I've also looked at all the videos that were trying to model this and explain this to students. And finally, an artist came out with this brilliant game that simulates the game of trust using a prisoner's dilemma and trying to model the different strategies. So we've already seen different strategies here. We've seen different strategies in Golden Ball. And the question is, what happens when we take all these strategies and we let them have as many repeating iterations of this as possible? Who is going to win at the end? And can we do anything as a society in order to increase trust or make sure that there's more goodwill in society? Anybody have seen the game of trust before? I'm going to open this, so we'll see this together, play with this a little bit. Have you seen this? No, nobody has? Okay. So it is interesting. I'll show you a little bit how this works. Perhaps you can help me out by telling me what to do, what choices I should make. But it looks like this. It has a little bit of a background. And then it introduces the ability to cheat or cooperate, and you've got different characters, and they need to play against one another. And you can actually play the prisoner's dilemma many, many times on this game to see. I'm just going to turn this off. It has good music, but a little bit annoying at the end. So let's say that there's another player, and what should you do? So you can choose whether to cooperate, not cooperate. What should I do here? Cheat or cooperate? Throw out something? Cooperate? So if I cooperate, this is what happens. If I cheat, this is what happens. More than once, it does this, and then you can play for real. So pick your first real move. So let's say that we have a strategy in mind. What would be a good strategy when there's somebody else? So you've got the payoffs over there. If both of us cooperate, +2. If if we cooperate, the other person defects, they get 3, you lose 1. And if both of us defect and cheat, then there's 0. So you see the payoffs. It's very clear. You don't know anything about the other person other than he or she has a blue hat. What should you do? So let's say that we're generally good people. Okay, so we want to cooperate. We'll cooperate again. Yeah, both of us are happy. Both of us are happy. What happens if we cheat at some point? So they look worried, and now they look a little bit miserable, and we won 9-5. And you can play many of these, but we can skip ahead and meet different kind of strategies. So for example, here we've got a strategy of all cooperate. It doesn't matter what the other person is doing. I don't really care about what they're doing. I'm going to cooperate all the time. How is this going to play out? Is this a good strategy or a bad strategy? What do you think? Okay. For my hypothesis, there's also all cheat. So if we have all cheat and all cooperate, who's going to win more money? the cheats are going to win a lot more money than the all cooperates. So all cooperates requires everybody else to be all cooperate, right? All cooperate is a very naive kind of way of doing things. So we know that there are all cooperates, all cheats. Some people are all good, some people are all bad. But how about the others? What would be a good strategy? Assuming that some people are good and some people are bad, what would be a good strategy for us to live together with them in a society? So let's assume all of us are together having multiple iterations. What is the right strategy to do? So now we have copycat. Copycat starts with cooperate. So you assume trust, but then simply repeats whatever you did in the last round. Okay. So if they didn't cooperate, then you don't cooperate. If they cooperated, then you cooperate. Okay. So this is one strategy. Then you've got the grudger, starts with cooperate, then keeps cooperating until you cheat. And if you cheat once, then doesn't cooperate anymore. So that's like revenge. That's really a person who takes things very, very personally. You violated the trust once, never going to work with you again. I'm all cheating. Then you need to know better, right? The detective is very elaborate. It does a bunch of things. It starts with cooperate, cheat, cooperate, cooperate. So it tries to know who you are, and based on that tries to accommodate with some kind of a copycat sort of thing. So if you pivot all of them together, who do you think is going to come up on top? Which seems to be the most, it's definitely not all cooperate, right? But you can choose one of them in order to see what's the likely one. I already know what the answer is. Do you want to guess which one is? Sorry? Copycat. Okay, so let's go for copycat. So you can start to do all these things, and then you can see the copycat versus always cheat. So it seems like always cheat is better at this, but he's not the only player because there's other players around, so you can keep going and see how it goes. And actually the copycat is gaining quite a bit, even compared to the old cheat. So we keep on going, and then the next match, and then finally, and then you can see that indeed copycat is doing quite well with this, right? So always cheat, gains on top, and then finally we've got the copycat. So congrats, that was a good guess. But it gets a lot more complicated than this. So this simulation also does a bunch of tournaments where the losers, and in this case it's typically going to be the all cooperate, are being taken out, and then just the survivors remain and play among themselves. So you can look at this and see how they simulate an entire ecosystem, a society of many different players with many different strategies, and then they run this again and again in order to simulate the possible outcomes for that. So here we have, let's say we start with 15 always cooperate, 5 cheat, and 5 copycats. Who is going to come on top? Are you still going to stick with your copycat? It's definitely not going to be the all cooperate, but it's between these two. So let's say, for example, all the copycats. So you can play the tournament, then you eliminate 5, then you reproduce, and then you play, eliminate, and so forth. So at the end, we're going to see the evolution of what happens in society, which is very, very clever on how this is how this works. And the nice thing about this is that if the copycats have other copycats there, then they end up collaborating and making more, getting more points and more money on the expense of the ones that always cheat. So at the end, we're going to have a society of a lot of people who are copycats and that tend to collaborate with other people collaborate. So it's interesting to see all of these. So it's nice to see copycat inherits the earth, but not always. And then the simulation takes you into the consideration of when does this happen. So finally, you can run a lot of different scenarios. You can play with a lot of different rounds. So how many rounds do you want? You can see, so in some circumstances, the copycat is doing very, very well, but the copycat also has disadvantages. So for example, if there are no other copycats and everybody else is a cheat, the cheats are going to inherit the earth. And the less rounds we have for the copycats to do, the more the cheats are going to take over their copycats. So the number of rounds matter, and it matters who is together around you, who are you playing with, who is in society overall. So fun stuff. You can play with this for a very long time. You can try different strategies. At some point, as a copycat, they're going to demonstrate some of the problems with the copycat. So there's one fatal flaw with the copycat. So for example, you'll see here. Yeah, so both of them cooperated and everything is great. But one of the copycat, by mistake, wanted to cooperate, but accidentally pressed something else. But once this happens, oh no, what's going to happen now? The other copycat is going to copy what happened, even though it was a mistake. So sometimes you also want to model mistakes, because it could be that sometimes we make mistakes. Not everything is computerized. We're human beings, right? So very good simulation. This comes very, very close to some of the other simulations that we have. So I'm just going to go through this. I recommend for you to go and see this. What is the best strategy? Veritasium, who we met before, does this and explain this. But finally, he points out to this paper. It's a very famous science paper that came out in 1981. So we've got Axelrod, who wrote also a book in 1984. So game theory really took off in the 1960s, 70s, but I think really reached a peak in the 1980s, where what he did, and today this is very easy to do, but back then in the 1980s, you were not around, I was, so I know exactly what was going on. He asked people to come up with the best strategy. So scientists from all over the world programmed a strategy, put this in a floppy disk, sent this over to him by mail, and then he took all these strategies and built a simulation on a PC, which back then was not very powerful, in order to see, putting all the strategies one against the other, which one is going to win and do the best. And then he tried to model what is the winning strategy. And the copycats, the tit for tat, this is what they call, seem to do the best of all the strategies that they had over there. But there are some complications. So under some circumstances, you need another model in order to come into this. But the results from a computer tournament back then in the 1980s shows how cooperation based on reciprocity can get started in an asocial world. So even when people don't naturally coordinate, if you have this kind of prisoner's dilemma, then trust kind of evolves from that and can thrive while interacting with a wide range of other strategies and can resist invasion once fully established. So if there are some rewards for cooperation, and you have a strategy that is a little bit like a copycat, then finally at the end, we're going to have a society where things work. And I think one of the things that still keeps this society working somehow, despite all the challenges, you've got the Republicans versus the Democrats. Just, today we had the results from the US elections, a lot of hostility. Half of the Americans are very happy and half of the Americans just want to cry and not get out of bed. So even despite all of that, you can create a society and economy like the US, despite all of the back and forth between all of those. So I like this kind of summary. I took this from Wikipedia, but it summarizes very nicely this final conclusion about what to take from Axelrod, what to take from this game of trust. Highly recommend that you go and play this. Be nice, cooperate, but also return defection for defection. So for example, if somebody is violating the trust, they should be punished. Revenge sometimes allows for you to build a better society. So not all revenge is bad if it helps build a cohesive environment. Don't be envious. Focus on maximizing your own score, taking into account what other people are doing, and don't be too clever. Don't try to overthink things. We're all fairly simple and giving certain incentives. We're going to act a certain way. So Golden Ball really shows that. In all of the episodes, things were very, very simple until this one person came out in this amazing episode and tricked the other person. And finally, just the final thing I want to say, this has real world implications. So if you think, oh, these are games, these strategies, they mean nothing. So during the pandemic, we really saw how this came to be when we have the need for social distancing and we need people to vaccinate and we need to have some kind of coordination. So people were trying to model this when the Hong Kong government comes to us scientists and says, we need to build some policy. Can you tell us how to build this trust, how to make sure that everybody keeps safe? So we model these kinds of things. So this is one of the amazing articles that came from that. And many governments decided based on some modeling. So even if some of the decisions seem very random to you of what the governments are doing, many of the governments, and I know this about Hong Kong, were trying to talk to behavioral economists to try to understand how to model this better and to take into account the exponential growth and the social distancing that's needed, how to build trust, how to make sure that everybody is playing along and nobody just decides to suddenly defect. So fascinating article. Would love for you to go into this. Finally, we've got this conclusion from Dan Ariely. So usually I show this video, but we're out of time. The three main things about trust in order to build it. You need long-term relationships. You need repeated iterations. You need to be able to build a reputation. And sometimes you also need revenge. So revenge is not all bad. Okay. All right. That was a lot for today. Thank you very much for playing with me and all the chocolates and the good times. Good luck with submitting today. I'll give you the instructions about the final task later this week. See you next week.